welcome to Learning Impact. In today's lecture, we will discuss how can we define social stratification. We will discuss some determinants of social stratification that include the structural determinants and individual determinants. So let's start. Okay, so what is the definition of social stratification? How can we define this? Social stratification is a system in which individuals and groups they are arranged in layers or strata, each with a different levels of access to resources and opportunities. So we can say that it is a system of categorization. It is a system in which individuals have been assigned into different strata, into different layers, and each have the different levels of access to resources. Means that the culturally value rewards, like in the form of the property, in the form of prestige, these have been unevenly divided among the individuals of the different strata. This leads to the social stratification. Now, the social stratification has some features. It includes first that social stratification must have some kind of hierarchies. Like there will be some upper, middle, and lower class, which will have unequal access to the resources. And the second thing that it is mostly considered a permanent stratum. It might be that social stratification is in the form of the caste system, which mostly caste system is one of the example of the social stratification, which is usually permanent. So there are also the other kind of social stratification that are based on the open system, but most of the stratifications they are mostly passed from generation to generation, so it becomes difficult for any individual to change the stratum. Then the third feature is that it is universal. Social stratification exists in each and every society, but it varies because it depends on the context of that society, that what kind of things the people of that society they value. Like the cultural value rewards, it differs from society to society. There are some societies that value the leadership skills more than the wealth. Some societies value wealth more than the prestige. So in such cases, the social stratification bases are different, depends on the context of that society. But it exists in each and every society, so we can say that it is universal. Then the social stratification is cultural, means that there are some cultural beliefs that actually maintain this social stratification. For example, the Indian caste system, the belief behind the Indian caste system is rooted in the Hinduism. So, which actually propagate this caste system in Indian society. So, there are some ideologies which help to maintain the social stratification in society. And then inequality. Social stratification will always emerge when there are strata, and the stratum will base on the uneven distribution of resources. So, the individuals of one stratum would have, more or less access to resources as compared to the other stratum. So these are the features of the social stratification. And what does it mean by social stratification? Now we will discuss the determinants. Okay, now the determinants of social stratification. First, we will discuss that what does it mean by determinants. Determinants are the factors or the elements that bring about a particular outcome or influence the nature and direction of a process. So determinants, in simple words, we can say that it is a factor or the behind force or force, the pushing force, which actually direct the process into particular or a desirable way. So this is the determinants, which is the force which act behind. Now, in case of the social stratification, we can say that determinants are the various social, economic, political, and the cultural factors that contribute to the formation and perpetuation of social hierarchies and inequalities within the society. Means that there is a kind of stratum that exists in our society, and it actually perpetuates the social hierarchies and inequalities. But what are the forces behind this? What are the motivation behind this? And what are the factors behind this? This is the determinants. Now the determinants may be there are two types of determinants. It might be various social, economic, political, and the cultural factors, depend on the society and the type of the social stratification. Now we say that there are two main types of determinants, that are structural determinants and individual factors or individual determinants. Okay, so what does it mean by structural determinant? Structural determinants of social stratification are the underlying societal mechanism and institutional arrangement that shape and maintain the hierarchical organization of individuals and groups within a society. It means that the social stratification which is maintained or perpetuated by the social structure. Now, what does it mean by the social structure? It is institutional arrangements. We know that all the social institutions are part of our social structure. So the social institutions, when they propagate a kind of the stratification in society, that will be called as structural determinants. So the structured determinants might be the economic system of a society, might be political institution, it might be the education structure, or might be the culture norms also. As there is also the culture norms, that what kind of norms and values exist in a society that also determine the social stratification. So these are the structural determinants. Now we will discuss that the examples of the determinants of the social stratification. So the social stratification is mostly determined by if we consider the structure determinants, one of the major determinants is the occupational structure. That what kind of occupational structure and prestige rating exists in our society, it will determine the social stratification. For example, if we take the case of the Pakistani society, there are the classes which is on the basis of upper, middle, and lower class, and these classes have been formed on the basis of access to the material wealth. So such kind of the occupational structure determine the social stratification, and this structure or the prestige rating, it differs from society to society. Like in Indian society, there is a caste system, which is the caste system which actually determine the social stratification. So we can say that one of the determinant that what kind of occupational structure exists in our society, like in Pakistan society, those who are industrialists, who are feudal lords, or who are Supreme Court judges, who are politicians, they are classified as the member of the upper class, while the other, like skilled labor, the small businessmen, the teachers, they are classified as member of middle class. And the unskilled labor, the sweeper, and those who are unskilled laborers, who are carpenter, these are classified as the members of the lower class. Now this is not universal, it will differ from society to society, depend on the occupational structure of a particular society. Then the second is the mode of economy, that what kind of mode of economy exists in our society, it will determine the social stratification. For example, the agriculture economies, they have few high status positions. The rate of mobility, it rises with the industrialization and the provision of more opportunities for the social mobility in case of the industrialized society. So if we case the agrarian society, there is no such kind of the visible and the deep-rooted social stratification as it is in case of the industrial society. So the mode of economy depend that what kind of social stratification will exist in our society. Then the mobility aids. Mobility aids mean that what kind of structure aids exist in our society. What it is, for example, there are in Pakistani society, there are some quotas which is available for the female, that are the reserved seats for women. So this will actually determine the social stratification, that either there is such kind of mobility aids and it either exists in society. If it exists, then it will lead to the higher social mobility, and it will lead to the weaken of the social stratification bonds rules. Okay, so in that case, we will see that it actually determine the categorization of individuals. Then the power. Power is what we call the ability to influence the decision-making process. So those who are outspoken in a public speech, who take interest in solving problems of the public, and those individuals who have such kind of traits, they will be considered as something more a charismatic personality. So it will lead to they have some kind of prestige attached with such individuals. So if any individual who have the power, like who are outspoken, who have some kind of leadership skills, or even those who are good in poetry, in some societies they are also valued. So it depends that what kind of societal perception about this kind of power, it will lead to the social stratification. That, for example, in some society, if they value poetry, in other society they do not. So those society who value the poetry, they will place poets on a higher stratum as compared to the other. So this is these are the determinants of the social stratification, but these are not something fixed. It varies from society to society. Then the institutionalized means, that what kind of institutionalized means and opportunities are available in society for social mobility. For example, if there is corruption, nepotism, and disregard for merit, and there is lack of investment in education and economy, so there will be absence of opportunity, which will make the social mobility more difficult to the legitimate means. So the social stratification will become more stronger, the roots will become more stronger, as the very few people, they will have the ownership over the large resources when there will be corruption and nepotism. So we can see that institutionalized means also determine the structure, the social stratification. Then the gender. Either there is a gender discrimination in society, what kind of the wage gap exists in society regarding the gender, and on the basis of gender, either there is more welcoming behavior towards the leadership positions for women. Such kind of behavior, or we can say such kind of perception of people, it determines the social stratification also. Then prestige, that what kind of respect, what kind of thing they give respect, or we can say the level of respect which is associated with a different kind of occupations, it also depends on the social stratification. So what is the definition of the nobility of man in the society? That is a prestige. For example, an individual who is free from social evils like drinking, adultery, gambling, and fraud, they are given, they have more respect in a society. So such kind of society will actually place such people in a higher stratum. So the level of respect associated with the individual personality or individual behavior, it also determines his or her social stratification, or we can say placement in a social stratification. So for example, if you take the Pakistan society, there is a ambulance foundation which was formed by ED. So there is a huge level of respect which is associated with such kind of services. So there is a the more respect and prestige towards such people, which leads to the higher placement of such people into upper stratum. Okay, so also there are some societies who actually encourage the participation in the welfare activities within the community. So such kind of that how people judge you, it determines your social stratification. Okay, then the caste. There are some societies that have the social stratification that is on the basis of caste. For example, in case of the Indian society, there is a caste system. So it actually determines the social stratification in Indian society. So these were all the determinants of the social stratification. The last determinant of the structural determinant of the social stratification is age. That there are young people who have low experience while the others they have high experience. So the society will value the those who have the more experience in a high ranking jobs. It will lead to the social stratification, that those who have the more experience, who are older, they will have more opportunity, more access to gain a place in an upper stratum. So this will lead to the social stratification. So these are the structural determinants which vary from society to society, depends on how people think of a particular phenomena, how people perceive individual, how people judge other values, and in that case it form a kind of the determinants of the social stratification. Then the other determinants of social stratification include the individual factors. First, we will define that what does it mean by individual factors. Individual determinant is a personal characteristic or factor that influence a person's behavior, choice, opportunity, and outcome in various aspects of life. It is associated with the individual personal characteristic or personal factors. Structure determinant was associated with the social structure. It was associated with the social institutions, that how society work. But in case of the individual factors, it is associated with the individual own abilities, that how it make distinction for how individual compete with other individual on the basis of their personal abilities and characteristics, and how they strive to move up and down in a social stratification. Okay, so these determinants, it might include individual one's education, or might be the skills they have, or personal beliefs, or health, and the personal motivations. So these are all the examples of the individual factors. Okay, so individual factors that are the determinants of the social stratification. The first one is the ability difference. That the ability difference will also, it will impact the social stratification. For example, those individuals who have the high IQ level as compared to the other, they will have more chances to have upper stratum in a social stratification. Similarly, those people who are more who are more risk aversion, who try to take more and more risk, and others who try to avoid risk, it will also determine their success chances in life. So in that case, we will say that the ability differences can actually make distinction that which individual has to place in which stratum. Then the work ethics. Some people, they accept the mobility values and they develop the goals, and then they try to achieve these goals by committing to their work. Sometimes individuals, they fail because they are unable to follow a certain behavior pattern that is consistent with the achievement of goals. So how much individual is consistent with the goal, with the hard work, how much individual is able to follow the goal-oriented behavior, it will lead to the social stratification. The high and up higher mobility is higher social mobility within the social stratification. So this is the individual factor which actually determine his or her placement. And the third is that deferred gratification pattern. Deferred gratification pattern is that when we try to postpone the immediate satisfaction that are smaller rewards to gain the bigger goals. So how much individual has the discipline to postpone the smaller rewards to gain the bigger rewards, it will determine his or her placement in a social stratification. So we can say that this deferred gratification pattern is mostly linked to the individual passions level, that how much he is passionful towards a particular goal, and self-control also, and willpower, that how much he is motivated to achieve a particular goal. So these are the individual factors that make distinction and make it also able one individual to have more access to the resources as compared to others, and will lead to the different placement of individuals in different stratum. So this is the individual determinants of the social stratification. Okay, so this was all about the social stratification, its structure, and individual determinants. So this was the end of our lecture. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your questions in the comment section below, and like, share, and subscribe our channel for latest lectures. Thank you.